My GF treated me like nothing for weeks, then mockingly suggested I find someone better. Little did she know I'd take her advice and be with a more beautiful woman within days. I thought I was in what most people would consider a normal relationship. Me thought I was in a normal relationship. You know, nothing fancy, just two adults splitting life, bills, and the occasional frozen pizza. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. She stopped acting like a partner and started treating me like background noise. I tried to ignore it, kept my head down, figured it was just a phase. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. What started as quiet disrespect turned into something worse. And let's just say, she didn't expect me to actually take her advice when she told me to find someone else. She thought I'd roll over. Instead, I flipped the script quietly, surgically, and with receipts. And that was just the beginning. I'm Tyler, 26, male. Got a solid job as a marketing coordinator. No drama in my life, at least not the kind I cause. And I know when I'm being taken for granted, but it took me longer than I want to admit to see it. To be fair, it didn't start like this. When we first got together, it was actually good. Like real good. She used to laugh at my jokes, be down to go anywhere. Talk to me like I was someone she liked being around. We'd mess around at Target, send each other dumb memes, watch shows together without it turning into a fight about where the remote was. I wouldn't say it was perfect, but it felt easy, like she was on my side. Then slowly, she just stopped showing up like that. Same face, same voice, but the way she looked at me, different. Like she got bored and forgot to tell me. The shift was gradual. First, it was her tuning out halfway through conversations. I'd mention something that happened at work, and she'd barely fake interest before going back to scrolling. Not in a malicious way, more like I wasn't important enough to bother hiding it. Then came the sighs. You know, the kind, long, dramatic, like lifting her eyes off her phone to acknowledge me cost actual energy. I'd ask if she could handle something simple like grabbing groceries or feeding the fish, and she'd act like I asked her to dig a trench. I don't nag, I don't repeat myself. If I ask and you blow it off, fine, that's a choice. But patterns tell you everything. And hers were screaming, I don't care. I started staying out more. I'd hit the gym longer, take the long way home, grab burgers with Dylan. Dylan's my best friend, 26, male. Being home felt like being in timeout for something I didn't do, and she didn't seem to notice or care. Then one Tuesday, Dylan called me to help move this clunky old dresser into storage. While we're figuring out how to wedge it down a narrow stairwell without breaking the banister, his friend Sophia shows up. She had extra moving straps or something. Right away, she was easy to talk to. Chill energy, sarcastic in the good way, not the Jessica way. We get the thing moved, grab some Chinese food after, end up sitting across from each other at the table. I find out she's looking for a place, crashing with her cousin temporarily, and trying to avoid getting stuck with a weird Craigslist roommate. We talked the whole time like actual conversation. I wasn't trying to impress her or be funny or anything, just talking. She asked questions, she listened, she even laughed a couple times. And when I mentioned having a girlfriend, she just said, "Hope she treats you right." That stuck with me because honestly, I couldn't remember the last time Jessica even asked how my day was. I got home that night and saw her curled up on the couch, glued to her show. Not even a hey, just, "Can you not walk so loud?" I'm watching this. It hit different after talking to someone normal for a few hours. Not someone blowing smoke, just someone who wasn't annoyed by my existence. That night, I laid there thinking, why am I still doing this? I didn't do the dramatic we need to talk thing. That's not my style. I just mentally tapped out, started keeping to myself. I didn't push for conversation, didn't argue, didn't offer plans. She wanted to treat me like a roommate. Fine. I became the quiet one. I also started saving. I wasn't sure if I was moving out or just buying time, but something was changing. Then came the washing machine situation. It broke again, and guess who had dealt with it the last 3 times? Yeah, me. So I asked her just casually if she could be the one to text the landlord this time. She looks up from her phone and says, "Why is this my job?" I said, "Because you live here too." Unless that somehow changed. She scoffed, gave me this annoyed groan and said, "You've been so needy lately. What's your deal?" I laughed, and I don't mean nervously or sarcastically. I laughed because it was funny how blind she was. My deal is you treat me like an inconvenience. And without missing a beat, she hit me with it. If you don't like it, find someone else. That's when it clicked right there. I didn't flinch, didn't raise my voice. I just looked her dead in the eye and said, "Already did." Now, let me be clear. I wasn't talking about Sophia romantically, but I had found someone else to live with. Someone respectful. Someone who didn't make every sentence feel like a favor. She blinked like she was trying to process it. Finally asked, "Wait, what?" I said, "You'll see." Walked into the bedroom, shut the door, and texted Dylan. Me. "Sophia still need a place?" Dylan. "Yeah, she's been looking all week." Me. "Tell her I've got a room opening up." See, the thing about Jessica was she never thought anything would actually happen. She'd talk reckless, roll her eyes, throw out "find someone else" like it was just a mic drop. And I was supposed to nod, pay rent, and keep my mouth shut. She really thought I'd never follow through. Joke's on her. I wasn't the one leaving. She was. Next morning, I made coffee like normal. Sat at the kitchen table, scrolling listings for desk chairs. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I just wanted a more comfortable workspace now that peace was coming. She came out of the room in that same old hoodie she never washed. Face buried in her phone, walked straight past me like I didn't exist. I said, "We need to talk." She didn't look up, just kept scrolling like I was background noise. "About what?" "About you moving out." She gave a short fake laugh. "You're not serious." "I am. I gave you time to fix things. You didn't. I'm not sitting in limbo waiting for you to remember how to treat someone right. This is done. We're done." She looked up. "Wait, what?" "You were never on the lease, but I still gave you the full 2 weeks." "I'm not you." She blinked like her brain stalled for a second. "You're actually kicking me out. I'm ending something that's already dead." I just didn't pretend otherwise. She stood and walked to the counter, picked up the paper like it was some prank. Her hands shook a little as she read it. "You're really replacing me with some girl?" she snapped. I looked her straight in the eye. "I'm not replacing anything. I'm removing what shouldn't be here anymore." Her voice got sharp. "Who is it?" "Sophia." "Sophia who?" "Dylan's friend from the barbecue." She looked like she swallowed glass. "That girl? You're serious?" "She needed a place." I had one open up. That's how adults handle things. "You're doing this to hurt me," she hissed. I shook my head. "Nah, I'm doing this to stop sabotaging myself." She just stood there blinking hard like she was holding back some breakdown. I didn't flinch, I didn't argue. I walked into the living room and turned on the TV. Later that night, I texted Sophia, let her know the lease switch was approved and the 2-week notice had been delivered. She replied 5 minutes later, "Cool, I'll bring my first load next Wednesday and stash it in the closet till move in." Simple, no drama, no emotional landmines. It was weird how clean and mature that felt. The next night was tense, but not the kind she expected. Jessica tried the silent treatment like I'd panic and crawl back. She slammed doors, pouted around the apartment, sent pity texts to mutuals. She even fake cried in the kitchen like it was some romantic movie ending. All I said was, "You chose this the day you gave up on us." She didn't respond. She didn't need to. We both knew it was over. By the time that first Wednesday rolled around, Sophia pulled up in her Honda like clockwork. Didn't bring a moving crew or make a scene. Just showed up with 3 plastic bins, a couple hangers, and 1 plant. Knocked once, smiled, and said, "Hope I'm not too early." "You're right on time." Jessica was on the couch, fake glued to her phone, pretending Sophia didn't exist. I didn't feed into it. Sophia walked past her like she was invisible. Straight to the spare room. No drama, no forced small talk, just got to work. After about 20 minutes, Jessica finally snapped. "So this is her?" I didn't even look up from my laptop. "Yep." "You're really doing this while I'm still here?" "She's not bothering anyone. She's just dropping off boxes." "This is disgusting, Tyler." "Nah, disrespecting someone for months, then acting shocked they're done. That's disgusting." Jessica stared at me like she couldn't believe I wasn't flinching. She muttered, "You're just trying to make me jealous?" I finally looked at her. Nah, that would only work if I still cared. She stormed off into the bedroom. Sophia looked over, smirked a little, and kept unpacking. After Jessica left the apartment that evening, probably to Chloe's to complain, I walked past the hallway and heard Sophia say, "Well, that went smoother than I thought." I just grinned. "We're only halfway through," and she laughed like she already knew. So Jessica had 2 weeks to get her stuff out, and she spent the first 5 acting like she was still in charge of the place, walking around like she owned the walls, slamming cabinet doors like I was supposed to flinch. I didn't. She tried a few soft approaches at first, stuff she probably thought would work. One night she ordered takeout, left an extra box on the counter with my name on it. I didn't touch it, threw it in the bin. Another night, she folded my sweatshirt that was on the couch and put it on my bed like we were still playing house. I didn't react, I didn't even acknowledge it. That kind of silence drives people like her insane, especially for Jessica. Now she feels threatened by Sophia. On day 6, the text started. From Chloe, of course. Chloe: "Hey, Jessica told me you're kicking her out for no reason." Me: "Nah, she gave me the reason herself. I just followed through." Chloe: "She's having a hard time. You really think it's okay to humiliate someone like this?" Me: "Tell her to pack faster." That was the last message I sent. Jessica must have realized Chloe wasn't getting anywhere, because the next morning she tried a new tactic. She waited until I was heading out the door and suddenly blocked the hallway. "Can we talk?" she asked, arms crossed, trying to sound calm. I stopped. "About what?" She stepped back, looking almost rehearsed. "I don't want to fight. I just feel like everything's happening too fast." "I get that you're mad, but don't you think kicking me out over a fight is extreme?" I tilted my head and laughed. "You think this is only about a fight? You called our relationship lame. You mocked everything I did. You told me to find someone else. You didn't think I'd take that seriously." She looked at me like I was the problem. It was a figure of speech. I stepped around her and opened the door. I'm done. When I got back that evening, the mood had changed. She'd lit a candle. The apartment smelled like vanilla or something, and music was playing on her phone. I walked in, dropped my bag, didn't say a word. She waited. "Thought maybe we could have a normal dinner," she said, pointing at 2 plates on the table. I glanced at them. "Microwave lasagna. Trying to win points this late in the game?" I asked. She sighed. "I'm trying to show I still care. You didn't care when I was fixing the washing machine and paying the bills. You cared now that someone else is moving in. Because it's weird, Tyler. You're moving in some girl you barely know. She's not replacing you in a relationship. She's replacing you as a roommate. There's a difference." Jessica shook her head. "You think I'm just going to walk away like it didn't mean anything?" "It meant something until you acted like I didn't." She didn't reply. I went into my room. A few minutes later, she slammed the bathroom door. That weekend, Sophia texted, asking if I'd be around for her to drop off more of her stuff. I told her to come by Sunday afternoon. Jessica was out for most of the day anyway, probably at Chloe's trying to rewrite the story for sympathy. Sophia showed up with a small luggage bag and another bin. I let her in. She nodded and got to work moving everything into the spare room without making a sound. She paused once to ask, "She still here?" "Yep." "Should I brace for impact?" I smirked. "She's been quiet. She's trying the nice girl act now. Bold strategy." About 30 minutes later, Jessica came home. Door opened, keys dropped, footsteps stopped. She saw Sophia standing by the hallway, holding a few hangers. There was this weird silence, long enough to be awkward. Then Jessica crossed her arms and said, "You don't feel weird being part of this?" Sophia tilted her head. "Part of what?" "This, moving into a place where you're clearly not welcome." Sophia looked around, then at me, then back at Jessica. "I don't live with you. I'm moving into Tyler's apartment. You just happen to still be here." Jessica stepped forward. "You know nothing about us." "Cool, I don't care about us. I care that rent's paid on time and the bathroom stays clean." That shut her up. Sophia went back to her room and Jessica turned to me. "Wow, real classy. You wanted someone who wouldn't ask you to participate in life. Now you're getting what you wanted. Don't get upset just because someone else is better at it." "You're bitter." "No, I'm focused." She stormed off again, and this time she slammed the door harder than usual. Something in the apartment shook. I didn't even flinch. A couple hours later, I got a call from Dylan. "You're not going to like this," he said. "Already don't. What is it?" "Chloe posted a thread in her private group. Claims you emotionally manipulated Jessica. Kicked her out so you could live with your side piece and that you're financially abusive." I blinked. "Financially abusive? How?" "She said you control all the bills, the lease, and access to the apartment and that you're using it to punish her emotionally." I laughed. "She lived here for free. Never once paid her half of rent. If anything, I financially spoiled her." Dylan said, "I know. Everyone else knows. She's just throwing stuff at the wall now. Letter. Nothing sticks when you've got receipts. And I'd saved every rent receipt, every utility bill, every grocery order I paid for. If she wanted to play that game, I was ready. By the 10th day, Jessica had stopped trying to win me over and started pretending like she was some innocent tenant caught in a hostile lease dispute. She walked around quiet, stayed in her room more, cleaned up after herself for once. If I didn't know better, I'd say she was trying to rebrand. She didn't say much, and I didn't ask. I had my mind on the finish line. 4 days to go. I'd already cleared it with the landlord. Lock change scheduled. Keys getting swapped the morning after she was out. All I had to do was sit tight and not let her bait me. Then something weird happened. Sophia and I were eating in the kitchen. Nothing formal, just grabbing food at the same time. She mentioned something about one of her friends who works at that overpriced rooftop bar downtown. Jessica had been there a few weeks back. I remembered because she came home that night wearing heels, clearly buzzed and tossed her jacket on the floor like she was allergic to hangers. That was about 3 weeks before the breakup. I didn't say anything, just asked Sophia casually, "Which place?" She said the name. I raised an eyebrow. Same spot Jessica had been bragging about for days leading up to that night. Said Chloe knew someone who could get them in without waiting in line. "Why?" Sophia asked, noticing my face. I shrugged. Jessica and Chloe were there a while back. She came home acting different. Different how? I took a second to think. She was weirdly nice the next day, almost fake about it. Didn't even insult my taste in TV. That's not normal for her. Sophia smiled a little but didn't push. Later that night, something clicked. I remembered Jessica left her Uber app open on the kitchen counter while charging her phone the day after that night out. I wasn't snooping. It was just right there. She'd left the Uber app open while it was charging. Probably forgot to close it. I glanced and saw the trip history still pulled up. Drop off at 9th and Jefferson. Not our place. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Maybe she shared a ride with someone and walked. But now, with what Sophia said, it started scratching at something. I pulled up my old texts. I'd messaged her that night asking when she was heading home. She replied at 11:47 p.m. with, "Already back, just changing. Be home soon." That didn't match the timeline at all. I'd been asleep by 1 a.m., and she hadn't come through the door until after that. So I ran a little test. Next day, while she was gone, I casually asked Sophia if her friend at that rooftop spot still worked there. She nodded. "Yeah, she bartends Thursday through Saturday. Why? You think she'd recognize someone if I showed her a picture?" Sophia gave me a long look. "You checking something?" "Just a hunch." I sent Sophia a cropped photo of Jessica and Chloe from one of their fake influencer-style posts. A couple hours later, Sophia followed up. "Yep, she remembers them. Said Jessica was all over some guy most of the night. Definitely wasn't you. Short dude with a beanie. They left together and that was it. No social media post, no dramatic confession, just solid intel from someone who didn't know me or owe me anything. That's how I like my evidence. Quiet and clean." That night, I didn't say a word. Just sat in the living room acting like nothing changed. Jessica walked past me twice. The second time she slowed down and said, "You're quiet lately." I looked up. "What's left to talk about?" She shrugged. "Just saying it's weird." I let her sit with that and went back to watching TV. The next day, I printed the lease transfer approval, put it in a folder with the updated key swap form. I left the folder in the kitchen. Let her see it, let her sit with it. She did. That evening, she knocked on my door. "You free?" "Not really." "I just want to talk." I opened the door halfway. She leaned against the frame, trying to look casual. "You sure about all this?" I nodded. "Completely." "You don't want to talk before I go?" "Talk about what? You leaving?" "About what happened between us." "You mean how you checked out, treated me like furniture, and then disappeared with some guy in a beanie?" Her expression cracked for half a second. "You've been asking me to talk, so let's talk." "Who is he?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Rooftop bar. Your girls' night. You didn't come home till after 1 a.m. Told me you were already back around midnight. Why lie?" Jessica straightened up. "Defensive now. You're spying on me." "Nah, I just remember things. Your stories never added up." She didn't answer. I pushed again. "Was it worth it?" Her eyes dropped. "It was just a night. I didn't think it would matter." "You cheated. It wasn't serious. Don't be dramatic, but it happened. She nodded once. Quiet. Cool, now I know. She looked up. You're not even mad. Nah, I'm relieved. You just confirmed I made the right call. She looked like she didn't know what to say next. So I closed the door and went back to what I was doing. Later, Sophia walked by and handed me a sticky note with a grin. She packed an entire box wrong. Breakables at the bottom, books on top, zero survival instinct. I laughed. Explains a lot. The closer her move-out day got, the more she tried to pretend everything was normal. She started using polite phrases like "excuse me" and "do you want anything from the store?" Like manners could fix months of being dismissive and cold. I didn't bite. I wasn't interested in fake niceness. I had a plan. The confirmation was already there. She'd lied, she cheated, and she got caught. But I wanted it in her own voice. Not for drama, just leverage. Something I could hold on to if she tried to spin it after she was gone. So I made it easy for her. I stopped avoiding her. Left the door open when I worked in my room. Moved around the apartment without keeping distance. No pettiness, just normal movement. Like I wasn't fazed by anything anymore. That always gets under people's skin more than yelling ever does. She picked up on it fast. The tension from her side shifted. She started being nicer, offering leftovers, asking about my day in that awkward performative way people do when they're testing if the door's cracked open. I gave her a neutral yes or no every time. That was all she got. On day 12, she finally asked if we could clear the air. I told her sure. The next night, I said I'd be home early and we could talk before she finished packing. She looked surprised, I agreed, but she smiled like she thought she was finally getting somewhere. She wasn't. That night, I made sure everything was ready. Phone on airplane mode, voice recorder app installed, mic sensitivity set to high. I wasn't worried about laws. We lived in a one-party consent state. But honestly, even if I never used it, just having it gave me peace of mind. I made the living room look casual. Dim lights, one lamp on, one chair open. I stayed sitting. No music, no distractions, just quiet. She came out dressed like she was trying to look composed, but soft, whatever that means. I nodded at the chair across from me, and she sat down. Exhaling like this was the first real conversation in months. I didn't lead, I let her start, let her fill the silence. She went straight into what she thought would work. Soft tone, vague ownership, a few "I just wasn't in a good place" lines. I stayed quiet, just nodded when it made sense to. She talked a lot about how she didn't feel seen and how we had communication issues. All the usual breakup script stuff, like she memorized it from some forum full of people who never actually take accountability. Eventually, she started circling around that night out. The rooftop bar, the one that got her caught. She danced around it at first, said it was a confusing time, and that she made mistakes she didn't know how to explain at the time. No specific names, no dates, just phrases meant to soften the edges. I let her keep going. After a long pause, she said she'd crossed a line one night, but that it wasn't emotional and meant nothing. That was the moment I shifted in my seat, not to act, just so she'd think I was reacting. She noticed and doubled down. She said she regretted it, that she knew it would hurt me, but at the time she felt like we were already done. The words came easy to her, like she justified it so many times to herself that it no longer sounded dirty. She wasn't confessing, she was rebranding. She didn't realize she was doing exactly what I needed. I let her finish. No questions, no accusations, just silence. When she ran out of things to say, she asked if I had anything I wanted to say back. I said, "No, you already said everything I needed to hear." She looked confused. "That's it?" I nodded. She lingered for a second, like she was waiting for a fight, or a hug, or something in between. I gave her neither. She went back to her room. I stayed in mine, replayed the recording, and trimmed it down to just the essentials. Her words, her timeline, her justification, all in her voice. I wasn't going to wave it in her face. This wasn't about her knowing. It was about me having the last word without saying a thing. The next morning, I saved it to a flash drive and made a backup. I didn't need to use it yet, but I would soon. I forwarded the move-out confirmation to the landlord, scheduled the final inspection, and picked up the spare key change form. No delays, no chaos, all clean and handled. She didn't say much the rest of the day. I think she knew something shifted. Maybe not what, but the energy was different. The silence now wasn't awkward. It was final. I packed up her old towels that were still in the bathroom, set them outside her door, taped a note to the box. Take your time. You've got one more night. She didn't respond, didn't knock, but I heard her moving around until almost 3 a.m. She left on a Thursday, didn't even say goodbye. Just slipped out mid-morning after I left a spare key envelope on the counter labeled return only. That was it. Door locked, curtains open. Nothing of hers left inside except a half-used shampoo bottle and a pair of socks jammed behind the dresser. I tossed both in the trash. I wasn't interested in closure. I wanted a clean slate and some very calculated fallout. See, I didn't just record her for kicks. I didn't plan this revenge like a movie. I planned it like a job. Boring, effective, undeniable. No rants, no social media sob stories, just real damage where it counts. First step, leverage. Jessica was part of a leadership mentorship program tied to her graduate school. She'd talk about it like it was her second job. Women in leadership, integrity in action, workplace ethics. Her whole brand revolved around being a strong, loyal woman paving the way for others. Except she wasn't, and I had her voice confirming that. I waited 3 days, then sent an email. Not to the program's director directly, but to the compliance contact they listed for issues involving ethics violations. Short, professional, and clean. Hi, I'm contacting you regarding one of your participants, Jessica. I've attached a time-stamped audio file containing an admission of dishonest conduct that may be relevant to your program's stated code of conduct. I'm not seeking further involvement, just ensuring the information reaches the right hands. Respectfully, Tyler. Attached was the trimmed audio, her own voice admitting she cheated, hid it, and lied while still representing the program. Did I feel bad? Nah. She built her whole life on being seen as morally perfect. That's what she marketed. She played fake, so I sent the real. Within 48 hours, I got a reply. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We are reviewing the matter internally and will follow up as necessary. Translation, she's done. The second wave came next. Jessica had been spinning a narrative for months, even before the breakup, painting me as emotionally unavailable, saying I was stifling or cold. She used that angle to justify the distance to her friends and probably to that guy she cheated with. So I dropped the truth into the friend group. Not all of them, just the ones who had clearly picked sides or asked questions after she left. Sent a single message in the old Hangout group chat. I know there's been some mixed info going around. Just want it clear. She admitted to cheating. I have the audio. She was still texting me about fixing things while messing around with someone else. Y'all can believe whatever you want. Just keeping it honest. Then I muted the group and never replied. Didn't wait for reactions, didn't explain anything else. That kind of message doesn't need commentary. It just lands. Sophia later told me Jessica freaked out. Chloe messaged her asking if it was true, and instead of denying it, she pulled the "that's not the full context" defense. That's when she knew she lost the room. Chloe distanced herself. Dylan didn't respond to any of Jessica's check-ins. A couple others unfollowed her. Quiet exits, the kind that hit hardest. Now here's the part I didn't expect to go so perfectly. Turns out Jessica had been chatting up some guy she met through one of Chloe's mutuals. Some clean slate rebound dude who didn't know her full history. Apparently, she'd been texting him weeks before she moved out, lining him up while still apologizing to me. She'd been lining him up as a fallback plan, probably hoping to pivot to him publicly once she moved out. I didn't even have to expose her. Dylan ran into the guy at a game night and completely unprovoked asked if he was still seeing Jessica. Dude goes, kind of. We've been talking. She just got out of something messy. Dylan straight up goes, did she tell you she cheated and tried crawling back to the guy she cheated on? Because that happened like on record. That was it. Dylan didn't even text me about it until later. Just casually, think I ruined Jessica's rebound LMAO. Sorry, not sorry. By the weekend, I get a long paragraph from Jessica. Starts with, I know you're angry, but this is going too far. Then it shifts to, you're ruining my chances at rebuilding my life. I never hurt you intentionally. And ends with, please stop. You've made your point. I didn't reply. 3 days later, she tried to file a harassment complaint with my landlord. Didn't go far. I had the lease record, the voice log, her written acknowledgement of the 2-week notice, and proof she had no rights to the apartment anymore. Landlord called me and literally said, you're in the clear, but what did she think would happen? She was grasping, desperate, cornered. That same day, I get a message from someone in her program, a guy I barely knew who just says, "Yo, I heard what happened. Cold, but clean." Respect. I knew right then. She was out. I didn't celebrate. No gotcha party. I just went for a walk, came home, ordered some wings, and watched the end of a show I'd been ignoring. It was over. No dramatic explosion, no revenge post. Just Jessica sitting in her quiet new apartment with fewer friends, no job lead, no fake advocacy image, and no one left to lie to. And me, still here, still chill, still winning. I figured I'd seen the last of her after the messages, the lies getting exposed, the leadership program quietly kicking her out, and her rebound ghosting her like she was contagious. I figured Jessica would disappear into embarrassment and go lick her wounds in private. But nope. That would have required self-awareness. Instead, 3 weeks after she moved out, I got a knock at the door. Not a text, not a call, a full-on pop-up visit. I opened it, half expecting it to be Amazon. Nope, it was Jessica standing there like nothing had happened. Dressed up, makeup done, like she was trying to convince the world or me that she still had control. Her smile looked like it was stapled to her face. "You didn't answer my texts," she said, trying to sound calm, but her voice cracked halfway through it. "Yeah," I said. That was kind of the point. She didn't like that. Jessica brushed past me without asking, stepped into the living room like she still lived there. I didn't even stop her. I just shut the door behind her and leaned on the frame, watching. She turned around, eyes darting like she was trying to find her footing. "This is insane, Tyler. You've made everything worse than it needed to be." I raised an eyebrow. "Worse than cheating and lying about it, that's impressive." Her face twisted. "You knew we were struggling. I was trying to figure things out. You pushed me away for months." I let out a dry laugh. "So your solution was sleeping with some dude during a hangout and then spinning the story to make me look cold. You didn't even fight for me. I don't fight for people who already surrendered." That hit something. She stepped closer like she was gearing up to cry or yell. Maybe both. "You've ruined everything. I lost my program. My friends think I'm some manipulative freak and you just moved on like I didn't exist. Funny how me giving you space turns into manipulation once you don't control the narrative." She blinked like the concept had never occurred to her. "I made one mistake," she snapped. "One, and I owned it. But you made it your mission to humiliate me." "One mistake," I repeated. Sleeping with someone behind my back wasn't the only mistake. Lying about it. Telling people I was abusive. Making up stories about how I held you back in life. That's not one mistake, that's a resume. She flinched. For a second, it looked like she might drop the act, but instead, she doubled down. "You're so bitter. You've always been like this. Selfish, cold, emotionless. You think being calm makes you better than everyone?" I gave her a look. "I think being calm kept me from dragging you through court for defamation." "Honestly, you're disgusting," she spat. "You think just because you have receipts that makes you the victim?" "No," I said. "Having receipts makes me smart. You being here begging makes you pathetic." Her mouth opened, then shut. I walked past her and opened the door again. "We're done, Jessica. I mean, really done. This whole visit, not getting you sympathy points, not getting you back in my life, it's just making you look worse. You'll regret this," she said quietly. "Not likely." She stormed out without another word, heels clacking like a toddler trying to stomp the earth into submission. I shut the door behind her and locked it, just in case she had any wild ideas about circling back for round 2. That night, Sophia brought over Thai food, and we crashed on the couch watching dumb shows on mute while laughing at the captions. No drama, no screaming, just peace. A few days later, I heard through Dylan that Jessica tried to guilt-trip Chloe into hosting some girls' night to decompress. Chloe bailed last minute. The group chat she used to run was dead silent now. Nobody wanted to touch her mess. Not because of me. I'd been hands-off since the recording. But because everyone saw her unravel, and nobody wants to sit front row for a breakdown. Jessica wasn't a villain in their eyes. She was worse. She was pathetic. The kind of girl who had it all, burned it for nothing, and then cried when the ashes didn't throw her a pity party. And me, I didn't post about it. I didn't rub it in anyone's face. But I also didn't let it go unpunished. Some people go nuclear. I just flipped the breaker, and let her sit in the dark. She lit the match. I just made sure it had oxygen.